To start with, I'm no expert. I don't usually read action comics and never written one until the Call to Action contest. All I can say is I've been reading lots of entries, and while some entries kept me engaged from start to finish, while others I found myself skimming through the fight and wanting to just skip to the part where someone wins so the story can continue. So what makes a fight scene engaging? Spoiler warning for these comics coming up on the screen right now. So if you want to read any of them first, don't continue this video until you've done just that. Okay, so you have a cool looking panel of character A punching character B. What does it do? Does character B look slightly more damaged or fatigued, but is functionally the same as before and still capable of doing the exact same things as before they were punched? A good fight scene is not just a sequence of cool looking action shots and sound effects. Moves need to have consequences and affect the tide of combat in meaningful ways. Some methods of achieving this include taking away the opponent's ability to do something, for instance by breaking their weapon so they have to fight unarmed, taking someone out of the fight entirely, changing fight location, and changing someone's appearance in a permanent, specific, attack-relevant way. For instance, in Super Weakness, the protagonist gets slashed in the arm and his sleeve is damaged, and the same sleeve stays damaged in the same place for the rest of the episode. This can be purely cosmetic and not really a tactically relevant consequence, but still gives the fight a sense of continuity, a sense that we're moving forward in time and not stuck in a groundhog loop of nebulous, fighty stuff going on. You may have heard the animation principle of anticipation and release. Dedicate a few panels to show the lead up to and or fallout from the action to really make it feel epic and impactful. In short, don't think of your fight as a video game encounter where the goal is to reduce your opponent's HP to 0. Or if you're doing it like that, at least write it like an actual video game playthrough with health bars and everything, so the reader can actually see the consequences of the attack. A subset of meaningful moves is to reveal a power, resource, or strategy. So I found many of the fights I found engaging had reveals. A good reveal shouldn't feel like it came out of nowhere. For instance, Final Battle. We know Allison had gathered powers from the Four Kingdoms. Limitless. We know the main character is supposed to be a tactical genius. Super Weakness. We know the kids are getting some sort of training, even the normal little sister, so it wouldn't be out of left field if she had something up her sleeve or toy in these situations. Many of these entries featured 1v1 combat, but my favourite entries rarely centered around a 1v1 fight. I get why so many people did it. We only had one episode to work with, so it made sense to limit the scope, but it also limits what you have to play with in terms of choreography. From what I've seen, 1v1s between opponents of similar size, power level, etc. tend to dissolve into trading blows. Ways I've seen people spice up the choreography include using the environment, playing with scale, teamwork, generally having a strategy or game plan for your protagonists, and having agents of different power levels. Usually with fights that engaged me, I can recall one or two key actions well after my reading. For instance, Super Weakness, knocking the superpowered girl off the cliff, the sister pulling out a gun from her stuffed toy. Vagrant Vultures, the ladder flip, someone lost their pants. Gloria, Tide.jpg. I remember these due to a combination of both factors 1 and 2. You remember the impactful moves that make a difference, and also moves that are just plain cool, but only if you are actually following what's going on closely enough to have been paying attention when it happens. Yes, you've probably heard this one, but it bears mentioning. The reason doesn't have to be high stakes or even original, but the important thing is to make us really feel it, so we really want to root for the main character. One entry I feel did this really well was The Rise of Maedi. I really felt this one, since no one actually explained to Maedi why necromancy was bad. Just, you're the god of death so you can't create life, and you're making them suffer again. But from Maedi's perspective, all the evidence points to necromancy being free life with no suffering or downsides, and everyone else is just saying that's bad for no reason. I definitely felt frustrated for them, and it was almost cathartic when they lashed out, even though rationally I knew that killing everyone is not a reasonable response to rejection. Anyway, you don't need all of these elements for a good fight scene, and missing one of these elements does not make a fight scene bad. If a fight doesn't have meaningful moves with clear consequences, maybe the story behind the conflict is really engaging, and it keeps you hooked with the dialogue and narration during the fight, with the fight itself being more of a backdrop, there to support the mood being invoked, the anger, the frustration, the struggle. If a fight isn't for any particularly epic or dramatic reason, well, conflict for conflict's sake can be entertaining as well. People watch sports and competitions all the time. Even if there's not much of a story behind it, we tune in for the strategy. We wonder, how are they going to get out of this one? And think about how we'll game it if we were in their shoes. If a fight has rather basic choreography with nothing fancy happening, well, simple moves can be impactful too. What does it say about the opponent when a single punch is enough to shatter the protagonist's bones, the arm they raised instinctively to defend themselves now useless and limp at their side, where no amount of willpower is enough to make it move again? But yeah, I felt like I've learnt a lot from this contest. I hope you feel like you learnt something too. If you disagree with something I said, we can do an engaging fight scene down in the comments. Tell me what you think are traits of a good fight scene, or any great fights you've seen recently, from the contest or otherwise. But seriously, good job to everyone who entered the Call to Action contest. I'm sure most of us had something we wish we could have done differently, myself included, but we finished an entire story of at least 60 panels, so be proud, and good luck!